Whatever, whatever. That was the word you would use for the scattered the brain matter. Affect that lighthearted. See how much he was at face value. Consider that worthy enough of the supply of the resource. God sound that can't be measured to wait for the return to vibration to return home. Turning home can be a point for the period for the decimal to contribute for the points and not for the interest or result. Rest that for the return. Retreat, retro, react, reveals. Revise vision to seek the sight, that to seek the ceremony for the match. I can find a currency for the current the rent I accurately rated high enough for the stars below the surface. Rising that for the horizontal, for the equilibrium for the balance, the scales to sail the seas, and not for the sea, the scam, but that's the skepticism for the scheming the environment. He was a human and not being not for the spirit for the house of God. Does my body have a drink? This is my blood, have a stab in my heart, but this is my something. You can stand still for the dancing of the reflex, this is my light. Then you cast a shadow upon the spaces, or the energy that takes its shine, adapted on the 2 feet for the gratitude, for this to be the ground enough for the wings to spread myself for the solitude for the hello. Halo, high hell to low, to find and finite for the day by life. For this is the wake up for the light, the pardon for the mind, but the body, the gender for the base, and just a metric for the being the male. Stamped in my heart for the destination to return to the center for the render for the hard day for the never had the mistake for the vein like rivers that didn't reach to the destiny. Fine, what's the heart transplant for another? Plant me into breath to breathe. Come before me and after that for the forefathers spoken to me for without the ears of present. Present that for the earth, the ear, to find the words for the valuable words, and reach that to break the gas, let it for the ground, the circle for the circulating in time, watch the waves go by. Good as if it wasn't different than never saying that for the speaking, and not for the what it means to say for the rather for the mean. I can find the means to test the money for the money, tested enough for the fakers and folks and find the focus and sight for the God, give it the right for the private. Spoken that thoughts and spell the existence of the word for the truth of the matter for the providing your proverbs and action for the will for the proposal, not for the proposition for the deceit that lies and grabs and the dispute for the disgust of the curse words. Cursor written without the wit, without rights and wrongs, and ringing out the call for that through in the towel for the dry deserter for the thoughts and that was aware for that for the edge and knowing. You are aware you're going for the courage to stand with the wings to sort the pain for the injury. Ignorance enough for racing through your laps like the strips of dancers and stripes to after tear the tears and out of the eye sockets that stock the defeated for the ambitions and ambiguity for the big goat. Big guilt for the little eyes, height for the tolerance, how oxymoronic for the short Negro with the only to be heightened senses of the chief to spend the time with anyways, and I can find a question. What started the sentence, whatever the hook at the end of the hanging upside down for the trees of the hangman, letter for the willy nunch of the stenches of the hate, inch the peg to mind the pinch to break the on the leaves the rake, the that to fall upon the season without the taste of summer for the year that summer upon the courtship. Exporter for the implore, you for the will, the fate to fall on the borders, negated. Reason to protect yourself for the ability for the mirrors and not the break room for the you want to come out of the comfort for the oppressing your answer for the pressing the question the patterns and cheek the ass of that the two behind the sea the you are the ones with too many to hate themselves. But you give it without accountability for the times the tables and the multiply the times to the adversity for the subtract this subordinate for the discretion for the what it takes to that the unanswered that for the quest of dibbles and seeking and the rest of the sleep of the sight for the insight for the alone and close of the line to properly propose. Your marriage and there's so many words in the mind for the union, with the complicated for the communion, without the communication for the community, common tragically. Trajectories reject. Respect that for the resistance, for the resonate. Reasonable reasons for the rendering, for the reinstate that for the sovereignty state of Christ consciousness of the truth. Way to hear that voice of the ocean, the condition, the conscious ears, it's all through that, the corner for the groove, the scorner for the garden. Nobly been upon planet to eat for food, for thought, for doubt, the holding the high fructose for the corn. Modification to implode. Implicit for the ramification, data for the hard drive, for the ease of traffic jams, the rush for the frustrate, for the minute, for the mandate, for the mandatory ways of finding. Hating lines beneath the clouds, the Sundays broke away for the Sabbath, for the keep it, hold the knife, for the poison, not to find the skin, for the death, for the be the rain, for the pour, that for the over the proud, for the cloud, the fall, the mountain, over the faith, that for the never deceived, for the move to proceed. My prayers are not from you, for the me to you, for the hip is done to the hypocrites of the find the way that they ink the pink, they ink the pen, the way to say what you mean for the glad, they write it down for the right.
Was it difficult enough for you to be the witness so I could find a point? The law for you to be the privilege, for the pleading, for the disobedient authority, for the divine mind, them to never diverse. Study yourself for the consulting, and present, and purpose, yet alone, and giving his sentence, and never the ordinary the trials, and never the common people that pronounce it simply for the complaint. You are the not for the question of the crime, but not for the whether, for the do, for the homicide, for the felony, for the what you have, the life, for this determination, because they often find us opposed. Just not for the court to tell them. Subject for not for the penalty, the period that for the reward I have that depending for the not upon the reading. When your goodness of the man's heart for the meditation, you presume upon the final inclination for the meditation. Secondly, with the contempt, divest yourself for the fear, for the anger, the hatred, your love for this, the memory for the retain yourself for the pride what have heard. manners according to, written for you and not to be depended upon for the serving for the proper method, or define the source. Civil rights for your power. It was a proclamation for the king, or abrogated for the remaining of the law, for this to be the power for the repealing of what you can have that for the abrogated, for this to be the authority of the imperial. And I have that thought for the fit, thought for the, instead of that for the people, the resemblance of what you find to act. Where with the sentences of where you had an opinion, for whether or not they gave it the demanded advice, judge, oblige, or maybe who's that for the consultation for the lords that you find in the country, for the 12 men for to be sovereign, for the not for the contrary, for the division, what you call that natural, consistent for your moral virtues, mind conducive peace, charity which I have already spoken enough for this to be the only living after, not to say the least, but that would be redundant anyway. I can find the point of this to me, the underground of every role that's spoken of, the lost cause. This is divided for the land, that you can have the semen over your words, and you never cast a spell that this to be the angel. I can see the prophecy, the purpose, and set out for the what was all to die for the light. What was right enough for not to be in vain, for to speak that vision for the out of the heart, for the mouth of the God, and I can be the sovereign prophet or a visionary. Extraordinary for the elementary ways, and you can paint a picture for the color book, for this to be the retaining your sin. I can find that for the revival, for the what the committing, for the ever recovered. You're just the same name breathing upon yourself, for this to be the mirror that you are afraid to look, and I've been for the conditions for your absolution. Without an act for this to be the observation, for the what you can find the aggravated, for this to be the successor, the pairing, observing. Rented to be unpenitent for the I can find the mark taken, therefore for the actions to rise in every point. You see yourself for the judgment written down for the what you can contain, for this to be the simply for the part of that power, for the you that had the key for the lock. How to take that for the interpretation of what you can find in pride, for the exhorter for the conversion. And what you have that for the New Testament, for the you be interpreted for the rather arose. For the not for the rose of liberty, to find yourself for the what you be in vain. This is for find the interpretation what you have of this scripture for the reading of a book you are bound to get knowledge from. I don't want to be propounded by you, or then for I am just like you. What's the difficulty for the understanding that? Standing over what for the common ground, for the proceeded, for the enough, for the sufficient, for the difficulty you. This would be the reputation you can have. Salvation for the fortitude, for this would be the latitude, for this would be to obey yourself, for the gratitude, for that you can have that for the remission of all. What is above, this will be the end for the endeavor for yourself, for this would be righteous enough. Whoever had that commandment for the transgression, for the love your neighbor like you love yourself, the perfect innocent, for there could be the never the flesh be saved, and this would be the law. If you only behave, contain yourself. It's not about the reward for the cause. Whether you love for the flaws, that law is going to ring that silent alarm. They will call you beside your mental enslavement, but never have to behave. I can only see so much from here. That immaterial for the never into the mind for the man nature has because that incorporates the imagination for the meditation for the ride that acknowledgement for the infinite for the omnipotent be incomprehensible for the understanding that to define the nature by the inferior for the unintelligible Given such a little for the dogmatic, for this to be the attention to divine nature, understood for this to be the honor, for the him, for the attribute, for the signification, for your remote to get me far enough for the growth of the body is invisible. How you affect anything for this to be the way. Cause for the use to bring that for the past, for the knowing what it is, for the cause of the observing, for the remembering in yourself, for the preceding and affected, for sometime now for the without between. Subsequent for that dependence, for this to be the connection to all, for therefore you have that for the expectation. For the evil, the left, for the be the bad enough, the superstitious enough for the part. Done for the die, now for the only the matter, for the attribute, for this to be the fortune, for the standard by the blood that I find together amongst you, for the charming. So much to believe to have the power for the turn the stone into bread, for the bread and the man for that, for the anything, for the enough, for the honor, for that, for the third, for this to be the worship, for the final exhibit. Invisible enough, and you can express that for the reverence. Mission the body for the consider, for the address of your sober behavior, for the meditated words of your swearing that is love, for the assurance enough, for the promises and your invoking. Beyond that reason for the suggestion, for the nothing, for the leave yourself, for the either, the rest therefore, or have that cause of the dark, for the must need that, for the object, for the something to find and accuse of something, for the power, for the have that, and the argument be the never, the eternal, infinite virtue, operation for the fear. What was that? You falling that for the time to come, for this to be the effect. You plunge yourself at the profounding and pursue for the cause, and you shall be the philosopher, confessing that for the be the mover for the first, and that's that I had the eternal cause. Name of that solitude, for that you can find the inclining of the fear, for the hindering and over the searching of the cause, and you can have that for the very vain to them. Fancy enough to find the natural cognition. Conceived enough for the man, for the devil's a substance, for the which it appear in the dream. Sleeper the looking glass, and nothing for the else to find a creature, for this to be the something that's real, for this to be the call of them, and imagination for the thought. Spirits of where, with the body for the visible, enough for the agent to find the vanishing. Opinion. All in nature contradictory. Or whatever you can find, the path and not to be otherwise, the limit to that for the limit, the him for the distinct commission, to the act for the representation, for the consistency of what you find a greater number. Pronounce, that of the affirmative, the negative for more than that for destroy, the affirmation for this only the voice of divine, the hey, whereby ourself for this a cause, even that for the condemned, solving for equality for the vote. Never that for the call to the herd, for the this condemned, for this all but enough for the contrary, for this absolving yourself with the presently, for the deferring another at a time. Voices are equal to never the daring. The screen enough for the execution, you have that for the dividing, and where you have the number for the representative. Many things are else enough for the big other, enough for the simply enough as you are to be in time. Particularly enough for the self, for the war, for your conditions, enough for the find the visible power, enough for to keep yourself, for the punishment, for the observation of your loss, and the seat down for the statue, at that for the nature, for the revenge, at that for the sword, for the but the words, and find the strength to secure yourself, for the man at all, I can never withstand. And I find a great security for the man, for the will, for the against that for the other man, for this to be the robbing of other, the field, and reputation, for the what you can find, observation, instruments. Or maybe the small family to do something as a city for the kingdom, for this to be the cautionary. I can find the second part of your common sense, and this is more liable for the rules to define the votes, for the ordained by your authority, for this to be the roles. Soothe, do, for this to be the pair defining all authority. Perpetual. Several parts of that would be disassembled for your laws and fine. Politic for the representation of your subject for the matters, and I could be all for founded, debated. Rather, but not, it was the body for the dissolve, the people. Therefore, you are absolute. Which spirits that immaterial for the never enter the mind for the man nature has, because that incorporates the imagination for the meditation, for the ride, that acknowledgement for the infinite, for the omnipotent, being comprehensible, for the understanding that for the find the nature by the fear and for the unintelligent, giving such a little for the dogmatic, for this to be the attention to divine nature, understood, for this to be the honor, for the him, for the attribute, for the signification, for the before enough for the most of the bodies invisible. I affect anything for this to be the way. Cause for the use to bring down for the past to the knowing what it is, for the cause of the observing express that for the reverence. Mission the body for the consider, for the address of your sober behavior, for the meditated words of your swearing, that is about for the assuring enough for the promises that you're invoking. Beyond that reason for the suggestion, for the nothing, for the leave yourself, for the either the rest, therefore, or how that calls to the dark, for the must need that, for the object, for the something that find it accusing something, for the power, for the have that, for the eternal infinite virtue, operation for the fear. What's that? Be falling down for the time to come for this sweet effect. Plunge yourself in the profound pursue for the cause, and you shall be the philosopher, confessing that for the being of the mover, for the first of that, for the had eternal cause. Name it that solitude, for the divine inclining and the fear, for the hindering and over the searching of the cause, and you can have that for the error and the fame. Then, fancy enough to find the natural cognition. Unseated enough for the man, for the devil, for substance, for the witch and the peer in the dream. Sleep or the looking glass, and nothing for the else to find a creature, for this to be the something that's real, for this to be the call of them, and imagination for the dark. Spirits aware with the body for the visible. That's what they call it is, be framed forever. Invisible, fancy, conceit, conceal. What's real? What's true? What's the scatterbrain matter for the fact? Delight for the harder for the see how much you face the value for the consider for the worthy enough for the supply your resource. God's sound can't be measured for the weight for the return for the vibration to return home for the turning and I can find a point for the period enough for the decimal for the contributive point. Result in your resurrection to return. Retreat your retro for react from reveal. Revise and vision to seek the sight to find the seek the ceremony for the matrimony for the currency to currently find the rent for the accurate leaving the rate high and sharp below over the surface. So your horizon I can find the horizontal. Equilibrium. Balance the scale for that to see for the scam, the skepticism for the scheming, or to find not to be the spirit for the house of God, your house to be the body for the drink. This is my buzzer and the half a step of my heart for this is the stand for the you stand for the dance and not the reflex of your cast the shadow for the pawn that for the spaces or your energy for the take the shine for this to be the own 2 feet for the ground enough for the wings to spread enough for the solitude. That's what they call it is be framed forever. Invisible, fancy, conceit, conceal. What's real? What's true? What's the scatterbrain matter for the fact? Delight for the harder for the see how much you face